Hello, and welcome to the next installment of the Portent webinar series. My name is Ariana, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar, which is Get on That Map, Local SEO Best Practices with George Freitag, one of our SEO specialist strategists here at Portent. We would love it if you would all join in on this webinar. There are a couple ways you can do that. You can ask questions in the GoToWebinar window or tweet your questions using the hashtag PortentU. So that's hashtag PORTENT and the letter U. And just so you know, in case you miss out on any of today's webinar or want to review it later, don't worry, because you will receive a follow-up email which will contain a link to this recorded webinar, a SlideShare link to the presentation slides, and a bit.ly link bundle which will contain any resources that George will be referencing in his webinar. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming George. Hey, George.
Hi, thank you. So, like Ariana said, what we're talking about today is local SEO, specifically getting on that map. Which map are we talking about? That's one of the things we'll get into during the course of this webinar. But first, just in case you're a visual person, here's the hashtag that you can use. If you have any questions, just send them to hashtag World Cup or PortentU, I guess. I think World Cup was actually taken today. So that would be where you can follow us on Twitter. And also, I'm going to be giving out a whole bunch of links throughout the webinar. So if you don't have the chance to write them down, they're all going to be located there. They're actually located there right now. So if you want to go there right now and check them out, you can. But they will be there throughout the. They are there now, and also that is where I'll be placing the slide deck and recording when that comes online. So if you go, you can write that down, and I'll show that again at the end of the webinar. And now about me. My name is George. I'm an SEO strategist here at Portent. That is my Twitter if you want to follow me there. I've been at Portent for 2 years now. I've been doing web consulting in various forms for around 6 years. Over that time, I've worked with over 1,000 small businesses. So I've had a lot of experience with working with small business and local SEO specifically, and I've also done various internal and external trainings for both clients and other SEOs and coworkers and peers. So what we'll be talking about is we'll be going over why local SEO is important, the most important profiles you need to be signing up for, directories and citations, how those play into the whole thing, and then of course reviews. But first, before we get into that, I like to start at the beginning, and that's just being a small business. It's being a small business. I've spoken to a lot of small business owners, and it usually feels something like this. You have a brand new boat, you feel great, you're excited to get going, you're excited to get in the water, and then you get in there and it feels a little bit like this. There's you, and there's the internet, and you're looking for customers wherever you can, and they're just nowhere to be seen. You're in this vast ocean, and it's just hard. And then to make things worse, then these guys come along every once in a while, and you're just your little boat, and then Amazon comes in and just dominates everything, and you're wondering how can you possibly compete against this. They've got departments devoted just to search. They've got TV ads, radio ads, product placements, and movies. And that's where local can come to the rescue. That's really where local is the great equalizer, because with local SEO, you do have the chance to compete with these guys. You can outrank big companies. So here's a small mortgage group, or maybe not small, but a local mortgage group in San Diego, and there's them outranking Wells Fargo, the big bank. You can show up for super popular search terms. So here's photographer, over 22,000 searches per month. A few years ago, I would have told a business owner trying to rank for photographer or photography to not even try. You're going to have to go for local specific or long-term terms, long-tail terms. But with local SEO, it is possible. And so here's a search for a photographer in Seattle, and these are all small local businesses. None of these are huge giant websites. And so you really can show up for for very popular terms when local is present in the search results. So local SEO rules in a lot of way. 20 20 to 30% of all desktop searches have local intent, so it's just being more and more prominent in search in general and on the internet. 40 to 66% of mobile searches have local intent. And that's a very conservative estimate. I would guess even more mobile searches have local intent. Mobile searches are projected to overtake desktop in 2015. I think that's pretty likely. And then further, this is something that always is interesting to me, is that 88% of consumers who search for a local business actually visit it within 24 hours. So that means if someone is looking up a business or someone is doing a search online for a small business, they're usually going there right away. Local SEO, though, does suck in a lot of ways too. So different places show different results. You can be really pigeonholed by where you actually are regionally when you're doing a search. If you're trying to, if you have a wide service area outside of your city, then you're kind of at a disadvantage in a lot of ways. Different markets have different factors, and so there's different directories that serve different markets. It's constantly changing, just like almost everything in internet and technology in general. It's influenced by locations. Listings can get duplicated, they can get deleted, all sorts of problems can happen with listings. That's why we're going to be spending the majority of the time today on that. So in a lot of ways it can be frustrating, but the most important thing about local SEO is that it's not just SEO. Showing up for in that map result, making sure that you show up, has to do with people actually getting to your business. So here you've got this poor Dunkin' Donuts that probably is not in the water, but because of what local SEO would be able to do is make sure that that location is actually accurate and give people a chance to get to that business. So it goes beyond just the search results. It really is getting people into the location and making sure that they can get there. So before that, we get into all of that, let's just start with the basics. That's on-site SEO, everyone's favorite topic, search engine optimization. But it's going to be a little bit different. We're not going to go, I'm not going to cover a lot of the basics. So I'm going to assume you have relevant content. I'm not going to go into keyword research at all. I'm going to assume that you know the basics of that, how to find what you're looking for online. I'm not going to mention any code throughout this presentation, and I'm not going to be talking about links at all, just because that's sort of a separate deal. If you want to learn more about SEO in general, there's lots of resources that are very good. Look up Local SEO Best Practices, Beginner's Guide to SEO. Will give you a whole bunch of results from very good sources. So those are all good sources just to learn the basics of SEO if you're wanting to learn about that. And also we'll be doing more and more webinars on that as well. But what I am going to do is just focus strictly on local. So what do I mean by local? Well, here's what I mean by local search and local search results. I'm talking about getting here. This is a Google search for Kansas City barbecue. Here's a map search in Google for Kansas City barbecue, showing up right there. Here's Bing, another search engine that you probably have heard of. Kansas City barbecue, I'm talking about showing up there. Bing Maps. And then also, don't forget about this place. This is the iPad or iPhone search result. So this is the Apple Maps. So I want to show up there. So I'm focused on how you can make your business show up in those locations. So let's go over some basic elements for on-site SEO. I'm going to go over title tag, contact information, the location pages, and one thing that you should also have on the page is links to social and review sites that I'm not going to go over now, but I just wanted to cover in this section. So starting with the home page and internal pages, let's talk about the title tag. You're just going to want to make sure that you're using the city or the area that you're targeting. So the most important thing about the title tag is that you're including essentially what your business is. So as an example, here's an imaginary Euro hut that I'm going to start one day. You want to make sure it says Euros, it has your location, and those are the two most important things. There's lots of variation with this. I typically recommend putting the business name first on the home page, just because Google tends to rewrite your title tag to have the business name first if you don't. And so just might as well give Google what it's looking for. And then just have your location page specifically mentioned within the title tag. One thing that I do want to just say right off the bat is just don't scan your menus. I'm not going to be talking about content a whole lot, but one thing that does happen a lot is that the menu is a great piece of content if you happen to be a restaurant, and when you scan a PDF, it's basically uploading a picture and search engines can't see it at all. So that's one thing that I will just say right here. The other important thing about on-site SEO for local is to make sure that you have a phone number, and so your phone number goes on every page if it can. You make sure that it is a local number, not a tracking number. And so if you do use tracking numbers, you want to be very careful that Google is getting the local number with your local area code, because that's the one that it needs to have indexed. If you work with a tracking number company, just talk to them, make sure that they're geared to display the correct phone number to Google. If you just kind of vaguely describe that, they should have an answer and know what you're talking about. If they don't, then it might be some cause for concern. Most tracking number providers do have a script that will rewrite the number just for specific visitors to make sure that Google only sees the local number, and that's totally okay to do. It's something that people have been doing for years, and it's totally fine with Google, but you just want to make sure that it is the local number, and that's what the search engines are seeing. The location page is another thing you need to have. You need to have one page on your website devoted to where you are. If you have multiple locations, it's even more important. So if you have 4 different locations in 4 different cities, you need to have 4 different pages that each have that you're each devoted to each one of those locations. Each one of those locations should have a title tag that mentions the city they're specifically located in. So if you have one, if you're in Kansas, one's in Overland Park, one location's in Olathe, one's in Shawnee, then you make sure that you've got one page for each one of those, and they all list the locations. Each location needs to have the full address listed in it, as it's listed in a phone book or other online directories, and this is called the NAP. And this is going to sort of lead us into the next topic, which is specifically about the NAP, and that's getting consistent with the NAP. And so what the NAP is your name, address, phone. So this is basically a thumbprint that is all over the internet. It's going to be one of the factors that search engines look at to determine how popular your website is, how popular your business is. It's going to look at this to sort of reinforce its own information. And so Google looks at other directories to populate its own map. It looks at other directories to see how accurate its own map listing is. And you need to make sure that it's very consistent throughout the entire internet. And so that's what we'll be focusing on for quite a bit, is just different ways you can make sure that your NAP is completely accurate. And so what NAP is again, name, address, phone, and really website too. So you want to be sure that you're always using the same business name, the same address, the same local phone number, and the same website as many places as you can. Again, it's what the search engines use to determine trust and popularity. Incorrect NAPs can lead to duplicate locations and cause lots and lots of problems. And also, if you have an incorrect NAP, maybe it won't even be associated with the map, and so you're missing out on an opportunity to reinforce how popular your business actually is. So it is very important. The main place where these will be occurring is on business profiles, and so these are the sites that you really need to make sure you fill out 100%. You need to monitor them. You need to fill them out frequently. These are the places other than your website that you need to pay a lot of attention to. And so to learn about these, I just kind of want to go through some search results in Google and take a look at them. So here's a search for a fabric store. There's going to be different search results in Google depending on your industry. So when you do a search for fabric store, what I'm talking about is those results down towards the middle with the letter. When you hover over one of those letters, it populates a whole bunch more information off to the right, where you see the NAP, the business name, the address and phone number. You can click on reviews there, and the reviews actually pull up a pop-up window. So all this information is just given right from the Google search result. Here's a carousel result. These are going to gradually replace pretty much all local search results. So the one we just went over is slowly disappearing and being replaced by this or something at least similar to this. So this, instead of just having this lettered result, it has a picture of the local business with information at the top. the very interesting thing about the carousel results is that when you click on a local business, so here we're clicking on the best barbecue place around, and when you pull up that result, it doesn't take you to the website. It takes you to a search result for that business within Google. So really, Google's just sending you to another Google result. On that Google result, it's got different mentions of the business, which is again why the NAP and monitoring other places is very important. And then on the right, it's got all this business information already embedded within the Google search result. So where is Google getting all this information from? And how do you give Google the right information to display on that? And that is here. It's Google Local. I think then it changed its name to Google Places. Then it became Google Plus Local. Then it became Places for Business. And now, as of I think 2 weeks ago, it just became Google My Business. I'm going to spend a few minutes going through that because I think a lot of people haven't even had the chance to go in here yet because it really is brand new. But this is where Google gets the information. This is the Google My Business page. It's a part of Google Plus. This is the Google Plus. It's a Google Plus profile. It acts just like a Google Plus profile. And there's not really a whole lot of information, namely because when Google switched everyone over to My Business, it seemed to have deleted a lot of the pictures and profile pictures. So chances are you're going to have to fill all that out again. But not a whole lot of people go directly here. The most important thing about this is that it populates all the stuff here in the right-hand knowledge graph and for the carousel pictures. And so that your way of getting into those sections of the search result are through your Google My Business page. If you have had a business for a while, you're going to be familiar with the old Places dashboard. So this is where you used to be able to enter all of your business information, and that's changed a little bit. So here's Google My Business. If this is the address, again, that's going to be in the bit.ly link bundle. And you claim your business in there, and then this is the opening dashboard where you can edit your info, add photos, add time, and view a whole lot of stuff. I'm going to go through a brief tour of the whole thing just because it is pretty new, and I suspect a lot of people haven't really had any time to spend in here yet. So the cool thing about it is that it's got a progress bar, so you can actually see what you need to fill out. It'll have call-outs if you're missing something, and tell you and direct you specifically where in the profile you need to go. You should always do 100% for at least these 3 profile directories that we're going to go over in this first bit, just because these are the chief sources of information for all of the map providers. So your goal is 100%. And I'm going to call out a couple specific things you need to do within the Google business dashboard, some things you should focus on. So first, the business name. Your business name needs to be as it shows up on a letter or a phone book. You don't put any keywords in here. You just do your actual business name. That's very important to do. Stuff in the keywords can get you in trouble with Google, and most importantly, that's what's going to line up with the NAP that we're discussing earlier. You also want to make sure your map pin is accurate. And so if you have a problem with Google Maps, here's one place where you can grab that pin, drag it to the right location, and really make sure that whenever anyone uses Google Maps, you're showing up in the exact spot. Here's the phone book. Again, you want to be sure to use your local actual phone number, not a tracking number. You never put a tracking number in any directory or profile, just because local numbers do rank higher because they are actual local results that the search engines are interested in, and you don't actually own the tracking numbers. And so if for some reason you move to another provider, you might lose that phone number and just create all sorts of conflicts. So always use your local number. And then you want to enter the website. And so depending on how many locations you have, if you only have one location, you should just use the home page, so your domain. If you have several locations, then each 3 or more, especially, you want to be sure that you're doing the location-specific page. And so if Portland had offices in Chicago and New York, then the website URL for the Chicago local business profile would be the Chicago landing page within the website, which is one reason why earlier when I talked about the importance of location-based landing pages. You do want to make sure you fill out all of the fields as much as you can using the predetermined categories. Most of these places in the category section will have predefined categories that you should pick from. You should always choose those. People respond more to photos of the inside of business rather than logos, so basically do the exact opposite of what we're doing with our business page. And then you do want to have a unique description that is at least about 250 characters long. And then Google Local or Google Business, My Business, sorry, Google My Business, I even get confused because they keep on changing their names, allows you to preview your results within Google search. So one important thing, I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but if you don't pick a picture, Google's going to pick one for you, and so it's better to have control of that so this doesn't happen to you. So pictures are very, very important. And here's some other things that you can do within the Google My Business page. You can share it. So remember the your Google My Business local business listing is a Google Plus profile, and so you can act as one. You can create updates. You can share pictures just as anyone else. You can follow other people. Other people can follow you, and so you can be active on it, which is one way to sort of encourage some activity on it and attract attention to the Google Local profile. It's got this cool Insights tab where you can view some very basic information. When Google did the My Business update, however, it deleted a lot of the information for the clicks and driving requests and insights, so I don't actually have a screenshot of populated activity, but moving forward, you're going to be able to see how many views it got, so those are like impressions, how many clicks actually came on it, and how many driving directions requests people performed on it. You also can measure engagement, and so this is just how many times people interact with the posts that you have on Google, and it even summarizes all the posts that you had and kind of summarizes how many people, how people interact them and how many people see them. And then it also categorizes them. And so it allows you to view your activity on Google Plus in a lot of different ways. Another thing that you can do is manage reviews, and this is going to be very important. You want to be able to see what people are saying. You want to be able to respond to reviews. So if you have a 1-star review, you can respond to it by saying, hey, thank you, or sorry you had such a bad experience. And so that way you can respond and address bad reviews when they come along. You can also review other reviews from around the web, and so this is a good way of getting a sense of other places that you need to pay attention to. Google pulls in review, may not display them in that number count in the search results, but it does pull in information. And the important thing is that Google never shows information unless it's using it somehow. So it's obviously using some of these other direct reviews providers for information, even if it's just for trust. You can also link Google Analytics and YouTube directly to Google My Business, which is kind of neat, and so that way you kind of really do have a one-stop place for all of your stuff related to Google. So with Google, just make sure everything's filled out. Remember, you can't be in the carousel without a picture. Pay attention to your competitors' knowledge graphs. That's the big right descriptive box on the right-hand side. And then another thing is that don't ever use microsites. Just because they can really mess up with the NAP, and so if you have multiple websites, it can really kind of screw with this from the beginning. Another thing that I'm going to go over really briefly is if you have some real problems with Google, you can always try Google Map Maker. And this is a little bit more tricky, but basically this is kind of the back end of Google Maps. You can go in here, look for business. So here I am looking up Google Seattle, the Google office. You can click edit. If I don't want, if this was a mistake, I can click on it. Just click delete and say there's no such company as this name, and then hit delete, and then what happens is that it gets reviewed by a series of people, and then that gets approved or denied. So in this case that would probably be denied because Google is in fact a company that exists. You can also add aliases, and so if your business is known by a few other names, this is your opportunity to add what those are within Google Map Maker, and you can really specify. Sometimes all the map providers get really confused about the difference between a street address and your suite, so you can specify that, and that can really help a lot. You always want to explain what you're doing when you make any change in Google Map Maker, and you want to be very polite about it because it is getting approved by other humans, and so if you don't, then it won't get approved. So the way to get approved in MapMaker is just remember it's kind of like Wikipedia. You have to use it a lot. You get a user rating. So if you intend on making a whole bunch of changes, you got to be really active on it. You want to be very polite. Please and thank you. I highly recommend. And there's also questions, and there's also a forum if you have a lot of questions where you also have to be polite, and sometimes people will help you. And that is in the link bundle. And then there's one other place. So the second most important place is actually right here within the Google search results too, and that is Yelp. Just because Yelp is very important. It has such high visibility, and this is really the other place that you need to pay a lot of attention to. It's really popular, 132 million users, 74,000 business accounts, tons of reviews. The largest active user group on Yelp is actually 35 through 54, 36%. So it is actually just has a very wide usage. But the most important reason to pay attention to Yelp, there's two of them. One of them is right here. This is an iPod search, and there's Yelp reviews all right in the middle of iPod because iPhone. Because Yelp is one of the primary providers for Apple Maps. So that is one reason why you need to pay a lot of attention to Yelp. Another one is that Bing tends to use Yelp a lot too. So by paying attention to Yelp, you're really addressing Apple and Bing in a lot of ways. So in order to claim your business on Yelp, go to this address, biz.yelp. You can make all the same changes you can within Google My Business. Add your business name, move the map location around, view some statistics about how your Yelp profile is being used. They have a lead calculator that you can supposedly use. And then here's those reviews. And so the Yelp reviews are famous for their super strict filter. Low-level users are almost always blocked, and they're very, very proud of that. And so there's not really any getting around to that. But if they are blocked, here's one opportunity that you can do is that you can always view your rejected reviews by scrolling to the bottom, clicking on the reviews that are not recommended. You click there, and then you can see which ones. And so one thing you can do with these reviews is take the good ones, copy and paste them on your website if you know that they're legitimate, and that's some way they at least get a little bit of visibility. One thing you remember with Yelp is never try to trick it. So here are two people that tried to review Portent on Yelp. One of them is named Ian L. One of them is named Tracy B. If you go to our career, our staff, you'll probably figure out who they are. So there's no getting around Yelp's filter. They'll figure out, so just don't try to trick them. Make sure everything's filled out. A lot of the same tips with Google. Don't try to trick it, and manage duplicates. I'm going to go over Bing Places just because a lot of people don't. It's not as interactive as Google or Yelp, but it still is important. You use it a lot of the same way as the other business listing places. So here's Bing Places. You look up your business just like on Google. They have a progress bar as well. It's another place where you really do need to be sure to spend the time to fill it out to 100%. And then it has all the same features. So you want to, again, use your official business name. You can move your map pin to the right place. One thing that Bing has that a lot of the other places don't have is the opportunity to identify your specific social networks. So you can provide multiple web pages, including Facebook and Twitter. So that's one feature that Bing has that's pretty neat. Again, the main tips with Bing Places is just to make sure everything's filled out, use lots of images, and of course always manage duplicate locations. Now there are a few other places. Those are the three main ones that everyone should always sign up for and really spend a lot of time on. And I'm going to go over a couple more depending on your market. One of them is Foursquare. And so the reason why Foursquare is so important for some people is because it is the chief location provider for most apps. And so I don't know, if you're like me and you're a little bit older, you might think of Foursquare, the only thing, something young people usually want to check in everywhere, or if you're a little bit younger, you probably think of it as something that's old news by now. But it's been around for a while, and it really is the primary way that all apps get their location data. Microsoft also just recently signed a deal with them just specifically for their location data, so it's not going anywhere. If you expect to get any visibility from any sort of check-in app, you really need to make sure that you've got Foursquare checked out just for that. So Foursquare really is beyond just being its own check-in map on Foursquare. It really is the data provider for all the check-in apps, and so they're all using it some way through their API. Facebook is its own topic by itself, but I'm going to go over it very, very briefly. The reason why I'm not spending a whole lot of time on it is because we are focused on search engine results, and most everything on Facebook is contained within Facebook. It is viewed as a citation in a lot of cases for local businesses, but the reviews on it are really contained to Facebook, and so it's more of a social strategy. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but the reasons to use Facebook is that mostly you've got increased visibility of people on Facebook. They are playing around with being the main provider for location data for Instagram, but right now Instagram is still predominantly using Foursquare. They'll probably try to transition it, but I just don't think Facebook's got the enough data to do that. But the reviews are contained to Facebook. One unique feature that Facebook has that I really, really like and kind of wish the other location providers would have would be the ability to designate your business within another business. So if you're a hairstylist or a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, where you're your own business entity and you exist within another one, you can click on the address and say you're located in another place, and then designate that. So if I wanted to say that Portland was a business within Smith Tower, which I don't necessarily want to do, but if that were more accurate, then this is how I would do that. And so that's a few places. Depending on your vertical, you're going to want to explore some other ones. So I recommend just doing some searches and seeing what other review sites are showing up. If there is a review site that is showing up for a lot of searches related to you or for your competitors, then you're going to want to be sure to pay attention to that. That could be TripAdvisor, Health Grades if you're in medical, or Urban Spoon, of course, for restaurants. Those are other places that you're really going to want to manage. So that's a lot of places, a lot of different areas to make sure that you've got a profile, a lot of different places to set up time, to spend the time setting up. And so you may be asking if there's anything else, and the answer is yes, there's a lot else to do. There's tons and tons and tons of directories out there. They all feed information to each other. They're all giving each other information, and this is where the NAP really comes important, in making sure that your business name, address, phone number, and website are as accurate as possible. So how do you do that with all these directories? There's a couple of tools that I'm going to go over. I'm going to focus on some free options first and spend a little bit more time on that. And then there are some other solutions that are paid that I'll briefly go over. So here's one website that does have a free tool, Yext. What you can do is that you can enter your business name and phone number and then scan it. So here I am entering the greatest barbecue place in the world. Do a scan, and then it gives you information about where you're missing, what you can do to fix it, and where inaccuracies may be. What you want to do is just go down the list, click View Listing to change. If you click on the unverified business link on the right, it'll take you to their sign-up page, which might be okay depending on what you're looking for. But if you want to do it manually, if you want to use Yext to do it manually, this is what you would do. And then you're going to need to click on each one of those and fix the problem manually. It's a very useful tool, and it catches a lot of stuff, and it sorts it based on loosely based on importance. And so the ones in the top are much more important to change than the ones at the bottom. Another tool is Moz Local. It used to be called Get Listed, but it's another very good tool for identifying if you want to take care of this yourself. So again, you just do a search for your business name, and in this case, you enter your zip code. You pick the most accurate one that you're looking for. And then it's got it gives you a rating score and a whole bunch of links to different features that you can check out related to your business. So you can view all the instances where your business is incomplete, and it'll highlight what's missing. So in this case, Superpage doesn't have the website. I don't know what that icon is. I think it's City Search. Has a slightly different website. Facebook is missing a phone number. And so it's very, very useful. You can also check for duplicates. And so we've got a duplicate location on, I think that's inside our pages. I don't have all these logos memorized. But there's one instance where we've got a duplicate. So apparently we're in there as both portent and portent interactive. It gives the opportunity to fix the duplicate, which is just sending you to either the contact screen or allowing you to sign up for your own profile. So that's covering a lot of them. You can always do it for individually for all of them, but there are a couple paid options. There are 5 major data providers looking at this that really feed into all the smaller directories and eventually to Google and Apple. And that's Newstar, Local Seo Info Group, Yext itself, Axiom, and Factual. But using any of these costs money. And so one of the options is Yext. They cost between $199 to $499 a year. It's very fast. They direct feed into a ton of directories. And has access to many directories that only it has access to. And so Yext is good for that. It's a very easy dashboard. Oops, that's Yext actually. It's a very easy dashboard to use, but some of the downsides is that it is a little bit more expensive. It doesn't hit all directories, and if you ever cancel it, a lot of the listings will revert. Another option is Moz Local. Moz Local actually submits to the other 4 data providers, and so Yext is one of the 5, but then the other 4 are all submitted through Moz Local. Moz Local also helps with monitoring the duplicates, so that can be very useful. It's quite a bit cheaper than Yext. The only way to upload to Moz Local is to upload a CSV, which is kind of confusing, but I actually made a Google Doc, little self-promotion, but I made a Google Doc that can actually help with that a lot. Moz will probably make this obsolete very, very soon, and so pay attention to that. But for now, this can make that CSV file for Moz Local a little bit easier to use. It does have some downsides. It's going through the data providers rather than actually feeding directly to the directories. It is a little bit slower. I would argue that long term it has a much better effect just because it's hitting the source of the sources of the sources, and so it has a trickle down that is much more long lasting, but it is a lot slower to take effect just because you're waiting for citation providers to provide information to other citation providers to provide information to directories. If someone claims it, it doesn't actually claim them, and so you might have to claim listings still if they are claimed by someone else. And then if you cancel, Newstar and Axiom might revert. If you want to know what directories are most important for your city, here's a good resource that's in the link bundle, so it'll just prioritize which ones are the most important for each major city. And then, of course, there's also some advanced searches, and so you can use quotation marks or site searches and combine them to look for different mentions of your phone number and business name. So here's one search. Just put your own phone number in quotes and do a search for all the sites that mention it. It's a good way to pick out any inaccuracies or duplicates. And here's another way just to mention for your own website. So here you're saying by using the command -in_URL:domain and then putting your own domain in quotes, you're searching for all the websites that mention your website except for your own. So that can be very helpful too. So that's a lot of stuff on citations, and so let's talk about let's close up with talking about reviews and mentions online. So reviews are very important just because they significantly impact people's opinion. They're not the only thing they look at, so they're not the end-all be-all, but they do highly impact people's decision on what they like, whether or not they trust a business. So people do pay attention to them. They tend to rank higher. There have been lots of studies around this, but they have some sort of impact on the overall ranking of a website within the local results. The raw number of reviews is a very correlative factor, and so if you have a lot of reviews on Google or Yelp, then you're going to tend to rank a little bit higher than the businesses that don't. And they can really make or break you. You know, they have the people pay a lot of attention to them, and so you should be paying attention to them too. So let's talk about getting reviews. And so people always ask about the right way to get reviews. How do I get good reviews? And so I'm going to start out with the best and worst answer at the same time. The best way to get good reviews is by providing exceptional and memorable service. And so I know that's not particularly helpful in a lot of ways. That's not what people are wanting to hear. You want to hear lots of tricks, but there really is no easy solution to get, easy strategy to get lots of good reviews. You provide consistent service, and it's a waiting game, and it just takes a lot of time to build up a reputation and have people write legitimate reviews for you. But there are some tips. And so first, the things you shouldn't do. Don't ever put a computer or station within the business. This is something that lots of people have tried and worked for a period of time, but both Google and Yelp and all the other review places tend to identify when lots of reviews come from the same IP address. So you want to be sure not to do that. Don't try to fake reviews. I think we saw what happened on Yelp when you do that, but you tend to get caught. Don't ask third parties reviews. Pay someone. They're very easy to identify, and they can get you in trouble. Don't get a ton of reviews at once. Just because that can cause a flag and really look like you're paying someone to do a lot of reviews. And don't incentivize reviews or publicly incentivize reviews online. Just because, that's against the best practices, and so you will actually get in trouble if Google or Yelp finds out that you are offering some sort of incentive to write a good review for them. Once again, remember, you're not going to get around faking bad reviews. So let's go over some basic tips for getting reviews. You can always ask for them in person. This is probably one of the best ways to do it. Just by being polite and courteous, thank customers for their purchase when they're in there. Ask them in person. Do follow-up calls if that's appropriate. And during those conversations, you can ask them whether or not they want to leave a review for you. Cite some sources online. A very low percentage of people actually review, and that's fine. That's why you just have to be sure to make it an ongoing effort and consistent. Signs on your counter, another very simple thing. Very low percentage of people actually do it, but it can help, and at least it lets them know that if they are on Yelp, you're on Yelp too, and they'll be able to find you. You can also find placards like this for Facebook, or for Foursquare, or for Google, and these are just very simple ways to do it. There's a review handout. Here's a link to a review handout generator. This is in the link bundle as well, but it's just a little guide on how to make finding a Google page or Google business page a little bit easier. It's another very verbal, very personal way to do that you can sort of offer people. And again, the main thing here is that you're just kind of letting them know that you're on Google or you're on Yelp and letting them write a review a little bit more easily. You can try using QR codes, but no one ever clicks on them, so I wouldn't recommend it. I've tried using that as a strategy over and over again, and it just plain old never works because people don't use them. You can also ask, this is about asking for reviews online, and by that I just mean having a link somewhere and making them available. And so if you go to Yelp, there is a link to places where you can have different review badges to put on your website. Use these to show off the verbiage that you're showing off reviews that exist. And if people want to leave a review too, they can, but basically you never ask for a review on Yelp. You show off your Yelp profile and you show off reviews, and that's how you acquire reviews, just by sending people to that page. Google also has a review button, so this links to go directly. This is the same sort of code that is used to link to a Google Plus page, but if you go to the Google, I can't remember the name of the website, but if you go to the Google Plus badge site, it'll give you the code to embed a link to your Google Plus local page. You can also do what's called Barnacle Reviews, and so this is when you log into Google and not actually Yelp. When you log into Google and review other places as your business, and so by doing that, you're getting a little bit more visibility on other businesses and just making your profile overall more active. So the way you do that is you're just going to go log into Google Local, click up there to switch the profile over. So right here I'm going to click Use as a Business for Important. It's going to tell me that I'm now using Google as important, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to a barbecue place and use a review and leave a review as important, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more sincere than this one, but that's what the general strategy is. For Yelp, you can always host a Yelp event. That's a great way to get lots of people into your business or get people that are active on Yelp to like your business. And so again, you're not asking for reviews, you're not incentivizing your reviews, you're just providing a good experience for people that happen to be very active on Yelp. And then one of the last things you can do is just send email reminders and thank yous. Just keep in touch with people wherever it's appropriate. Just be nice to them online. Mailchimp is a great service that's very easy to monitor and track how many emails you're sending out. Keep track of a mailing list. Manage very simple email campaigns, and it's free for most small businesses, just because it only charges after a certain amount of emails are sent out, and so it usually is free for small businesses, and so it's very, very good, very easy to use. When you do send out emails, be sure you're linking to all the applicable social profiles. I would be careful about sending links out to Yelp unless, of course, the context is that you're just showing off reviews. You can also use social, and so social is basically the exact same strategy as when you are in person. You're just thanking customers for their purchases. You're being nice to them. You're following them up, making sure they're okay. If you want to identify people that are active online, then those might be someone's to pay a little bit more attention to. But mostly, you're just continuing to provide outstanding service over social, with the hope that they gradually go over to one of the online review sites. And lastly, with social, you just want to find your community, and so it depends on what your market is. Different communities are all over the place. You're going to have more of your customers active on a particular social network than others, and so just as a matter of taking the time to find that. So to sum things up, local SEO in 4 steps. You want to have a focused website, focused on your location, and very straightforward. You want to fill out the right profiles, and so that means Google and Yelp at least. Fill those out to 100%. Get really anal about those profiles, checking on them often. Work with your directory listings, either having a schedule to check in on directory listings regularly, determine which ones, and have a system to at least claim as many of them as possible, or working through one of the citation providers, and just have some sort of review strategy. Even if the strategy is just to make a habit of asking people to visit your Yelp page or your Google page when they're checking out or something like that. Just have some sort of strategy in place, and have that in mind, that the goal is to just have people like your business. Because, and I'm going to just conclude with this. With local SEO, this is more true than in anywhere else within SEO. SEO is all about getting the right people to your website so they can either buy something or do something that they came there to do. And with local, it's even more important that there's even more crossover, because that for local, the intended action is really just to get them into your doorstep. And so by doing local SEO, you really are just helping people get to your business and helping them get to find what they need to find from you. So with that is everything that I've got to say about local SEO. If you have any questions, again, just send them to the hashtag ImportantU, and here's my contact information.
George, that was awesome. Thank you so much. So don't forget, like George mentioned, we will be putting everything in the Bitly bundle, and you'll get a follow-up email the next day or so with all of those links, so you don't have to remember them from the screens that we've been through. And the link bundle, just as an FYI, is case sensitive. I think it's all lowercase, but it is case sensitive. So we are now opening it up for Q&A. So if you have any questions, remember to use the question window in GoToMeeting, or send them through Twitter using the hashtag #PortentU. So let's see. The first question we have is from Russ. I do a website for pool service. He doesn't have any physical offices other than in other locations, but he wants to rank higher in zip code areas outside his physical address. How would you optimize a service business when they want to target specific service zones outside their primary business address?
Hi Russ, thanks for your question. So one of the downsides of local SEO is that it really is biased towards people with a physical address, and so even if you so the best thing to have is to have a physical address, unfortunately, and so that's going to put anyone at an advantage. Google does let you establish service areas within My Business, but unfortunately those don't really do a whole lot. So your best bet for those things is just to really hyper target your locations on the website just from a traditional SEO strategy. And so I would just describe your area on the website, have some specific long tail, do some searches related that are very similar or related to the actual service, and just find the types of results that are showing up for that, and just try to create content around that. And that's going to be your best bet, is just to really show up for those. There's not really a way to get into those local results without, at least reliably, without a physical address.
There's also paid, isn't
You
there?
can
But
also-
that's
yes.
a different webinar. But
Yes.
we're
You
talking
can
about
also pay.
organic. Thanks for the question, Russ. Next question is from Peter. My business page was disabled. No idea why. What should I do next?
That's so that just kind of happens. I would try to contact Google and see why that got disconnected. You can always so through Google Express ads. That's their paid ad service. I've never seen a whole lot of success through that, but what it does get you is it gets you a way to contact Google through that, to get in touch with an actual Google employee that can actually help diagnose that a lot. But a lot of different things could happen. It could just be erased. It can just be banned for some reason. I would figure out if you're still showing up in search results in general. I would go into Google Map Maker and do some check-in there, at least just do a basic search for your business and see if it at least is still showing up. That way you can have a starting point and really figure out what's going on. But ultimately, you're going to have to just either get in contact with Google or try to start another page from scratch.
That's a bummer, Peter. Hopefully you can find it. Ava asks, for a business with multiple Google Plus profiles, what's the best course of action for eliminating or combining these profiles to just have one?
Well, if you've got multiple Google Plus profiles, but they're all for different locations, you want specific local pages for each one of your different locations. So if that's the reason why you have multiple Plus profiles, is for each location, that is good in the local front. So you do want to make sure your Google My Business has one My Business profile for each one of those addresses, because those are their own entity and they should be treated as their own entity. If you're talking about the business page, you can just close those down and just try to consolidate the circles to that. But that's a little bit different than, that's not going to particularly harm you from a local SEO front. That's just more splitting the resources within the Google Plus as a social network.
Thanks for the question, Ava. Juliet asks, does it make sense for a small business to act local from an SEO perspective, even if the business is more global?
If it's relevant, then absolutely. There's lots of, if you have a storefront, then you definitely need to do local, and you need to pay a lot of attention to it. That's why I view it as a great equalizer. So everything I went through in the webinar is something that a large brand would have to do as well. So Target has just as many problems with duplicate locations. They have more budget to deal with citation providers and stuff like that, but ultimately they're subject to the exact same problems that a small business is. They still have to manage a local page, manage reviews, and are impacted by all of those. So large businesses should absolutely use local SEO as a strategy, especially if you've got your storefronts. It makes a lot of sense. And if there are any other specific searches related to local, it just comes to a matter of whether or not there is our customers searching for you at a local level. Then that should also determine whether or not you use a local strategy.
I had a question, George. So you talked about the email follow-ups, and I've seen people send me follow-ups when I purchase things and be like, "Oh, you can get X% off if you provide us a review." I'm hearing that you say that's a bad thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say that's a bad thing. Be very careful. So with email, the search engines can't see it, but still I'd be very careful, just because it only takes one person to complain about it, and those types of things can be very easy to detect for Google.
Okay. Kevin asks, I originally started my Google business page as a regular page. Now that I have a decent following, I would like to switch to local. However, I'm not seeing any options that are offered on Google+. Is there a simple way to switch?
So that's a harder switch. What you can do is that you can create a local page. So I would recommend that you do that regardless. You can always you can have a business page and a local page. You can then often combine them but you'd have to create the local page first. And so just go to google.com/business, create your local page, just normal, and then try to combine that with the business page if possible. But you're going to need to start with the local page first.
Hopefully that helps you, Kevin. We still have a few more minutes here. If you have any additional questions, feel free to put them into the question window. Let's see, another question here. Looks like how long will it take to make my site move up as I'm doing these things? How much effort, and when can I expect to see results happen?
Like anything with SEO, it takes several months, and so especially with local, just because there's a lot of moving things in effect. The citation providers are generally just very slow, just because, as you can kind of see from that flow chart, you're providing information to directories that in turn providing information to other directories, and it's kind of a cascading effect that takes several months. If you do everything right away, you sign up for citation provider, put everything in place, then best case scenario is a few months, but that is pretty standard for SEO. But that is what I would recommend expecting.
It's a waiting game, always, isn't it?
It is always a waiting game.
Rosie asks, do you believe in a one-time annual citation list that takes care of all your local directories without any monthly fees?
Yes, I do. I actually, so Yext and Moz are two options that actually do that, or to a certain extent, and that they are an excellent solution to taking care of the majority of those directories and citation providers. However, regardless, and this is something that sometimes the directory providers try to play up that they can take care of, is that you still have to pay attention to Google and probably Yelp and Bing too, no matter what. So even if you're working with a directory provider that is pushing information to Google, because they usually all hit Google in some way, either through a couple steps, you need to pick out the profiles that are the most impactful for your business and really manage those directly, because there's no comparing that to a citation provider. It's always better to have direct control over something, and so at least do Google manually by yourself. So yeah, the question was, I originally said Moz Local and Yext were free, and then later I said they had freeze. Both of them have free tools that you can use, and so both of them have a citation finder where you can enter in your business name. It'll pop out a list of all the places that potentially have inaccuracies online, and so you can go down and manually fix all those yourself when possible. But then they also have paid services where they do that for you. And so Yext, again, has it's a few $100s a year, and it pushes out to a lot of directories. It's got a direct feed in those directories, and it pushes into them almost immediately. Moz also has an annual fee for a little bit lower. It feeds into citation providers that in turn feed into a lot of different directories. So it's a little less direct, and it takes a little bit longer, but it still is very effective, and I think it's more effective in the long run. But they also hit different places, and so the only way to make sure, so you've got massive inaccuracy problems or lots of discrepancies from directory to directory, or if you change names a couple of times, it might be worth signing up for both, just because that's the only way to hit the most amount of directories.
So what I'm hearing is test it with the free service, see how bad it looks.
Yeah.
Or if you want to do it yourself, and then pay for the fee to have somebody else manage it for you and do your quarterly checks or whatever it is to make sure things managed.
Yeah, and I would recommend signing up for at least one. So if you're not going to sign up for either Yext or Moz, you can sign up for Factual, which is free, or one of the other citation providers. At least one of them, just because they also hit a bunch of small local directories that you probably wouldn't know about, and so it really does make a significant impact in the amount of citation or NAP mentions there are online working with any of the citation providers.
Awesome. Thanks, George. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Don't forget, if you have any additional questions, and we'll get that out of the way. If you have any additional questions for George, you can tweet them directly at him at #1George, and that's the number, like the word number, and the number one, George. It's also on the slide on your screen right now. The presentation slides, the bit.ly link bundle, everything will be coming to you in a follow-up email, and if you're talking to George on Twitter, remember to use the hashtag #PortentU. Join us next month for our July webinar, which will be hosted by our very own chairman, Ian Lurie, here at Portent. It's on July 31st, and he will be doing the webinar on 20 copywriting disasters and how to avoid them, so that should be fun. Details about the webinar can be found on the webinar tab on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/portent.marketing. Thank you, everyone, and have a fabulous day.